Hey, how you doing out there? It's your friend, it's your brother, Chris Harris. I'm back with you once again here at Open Doors. I'm so thankful that you took the time to check out this podcast. I know we're going to have an interesting time discussing the topic that I have for you today. Before we get started, I need you to like this episode, and I also need you to do this. If you haven't done so already, I need you to hit that subscribe button because when we drop episodes here at Open Doors, when they drop, when you subscribe, they come right to you. All right, let's get started. I want us today to talk about our brother, our favorite uncle, Shannon Sharpe. NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe. As you heard recently, he was fired from ESPN. And I want us to talk about this because we know the saga, we know the drama that happened with Shannon Sharpe, the sexual assault accusations, the lawsuit that was there. And he settled, and after everything had happened, he settled, and after that, he was fired from ESPN. I want us to talk about this because I believe that you and I can learn from this. We can learn from people mishaps. We can learn from things that happen with people. And I believe God put that there for us to learn. You know, when it comes to the Bible, it says that those accounts were mentioned for our example. They were there to be an example for us in order for us to live our life. And I believe that when people go through things in life, as we look at them, even in our own family, right? You know, we've had uncles and aunties, our fathers, older brothers, different people that we've seen go through different things. And I believe wholeheartedly that you can learn something from the things that other people go through. So let's talk about Shannon Sharpe. I want to play this quick video for us. And then when I play the video afterwards, we'll come back and have a discussion. All right, let me play the video.
Before we get started, obviously, I'm sure everybody's heard the news by now that I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week, and really the only thing that I really ask is like, guys, could we wait until Monday? My brother's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I really wanted to be about him, and I wanted to be about my family. I know I said this coming out will overshadow everything that he's worked his entire life for. And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. And so, as I told him, as I profusely apologized to him earlier today, he said, bro, stop apologizing. You don't have to apologize. I'm your big bro. I'm going to love you regardless. We all make mistakes. And he says, bro, I love you. So I'm done with this. You're done with it too. Move on. And I really enjoyed my time at ESPN. It gave me an opportunity to bring my audience that saw me really just grow. They saw me, Lakers in 5, and they saw me say all these analogies that my grandparents gave me, and I was able to bring that to ESPN. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But I just wished, of all things, like I said, hey, they did what they felt they needed to do, and I'm at peace with that. But I just wish, guys, this thing could have waited until Monday, because I hate the fact that I'm overshadowing my brother, the first two brothers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and this is what the headline's going to be for the next couple of days. So, bro, again, I know you told me this, I don't have to apologize, but I'm going to do it one final time tonight, and I won't apologize again. I'm sorry that I upstaged you in this manner. That was never my intent. You've been my hero. You've been my role model from as long as I can remember. And I apologize, and I thank all my fans for supporting me when I was at ESPN and every place that I've been, be it Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, Undisputed, ESPN. Thank you guys for your support.
All right, so we saw that video and on Nightcap, which is a show that Shannon Sharpe has with Chad Ochocinco, been blowing up, doing great things with Nightcap. Also, he's the host of a club Shay Shay, which is amazing as well. Shannon Sharpe has been doing amazing things, but on there he's apologizing, letting everybody know, what we already knew, that he had been fired from ESPN, but also taking the time to apologize to his brother, Sterling Sharpe, who was inducted during this time in the NFL Hall of Fame, because he didn't want this moment to overshadow what his brother had going on. So I understand that. I understand that. But I want to talk about Uncle Shay, because through this whole process, when this all came out, I made an episode before talking about it when it came out. And the thing is that it's so sad. It's so sad because we're looking at a man who I respect. I watched Shannon Sharpe in the NFL. Like I said, he's NFL Hall of Famer, Shannon Sharpe. And I followed him when he was on CBS. I followed him on Undisputed. Quiet as it's kept, Shannon Sharpe made Undisputed, in my opinion, because Skip Bayless is Skip Bayless. He comes with his takes. He's a former journalist, and he's been in media for so many years. He has his place in Undisputed. He was the founder of Undisputed, but Shannon Sharpe is the one that brought the entertainment. Shannon Sharpe was the one that, to me, raised Undisputed to a higher level, and we know that ended. But just following him from there and just seeing the birth of Club Shay Shay and Nightcap, and just seeing him on ESPN First Take, and as well as other things, I was proud of him, just seeing him come from that NFL and come from his background that he always talked about from the South. He always talked about his grandmother, his grandfather being raised by them, and his humble upbringings, and to see where he was today. It saddens me to see him like this, because you're looking at a man who really taught us how to fumble the bag. In my opinion, like I was saying in the beginning, we can learn things when things happen to people. We can learn from them. Don't repeat. When you see people fall, when you see people get caught in uncompromised or compromising situations, the key is to see it and learn from it. You don't want to repeat people's mistakes. And this is something that we can learn from and understand and find out how not to repeat their mistakes. Because Shannon Sharpe taught us how to fumble the bag. It hurt me. It hurt me because Shannon Sharpe, there had been talks about him possibly getting $100 million contract. I mean, like I said, just to have his humble beginnings and know where this man had come from to make it to the NFL from Savannah State. I think he was a 7th-round pick. And from there, his work ethic to work himself to being an NFL Hall of Famer. And there's always kind of been this notion, let me just talk to you for a second. There's always kind of been this stereotype when it comes to NFL football players, especially Black NFL football players, as if that's the only thing they can do. I'm sure people thought that about Shannon Sharpe. Oh, this is the only thing he can do is play football. He can catch a football. But no, he showed the world that he's much more than a football player. He's so multi-talented, and you saw the growth of him. And to see him get to a point where he's built up Club Shay Shay, he's built up Nightcap, and he's just growing and moving, and have the opportunity to possibly get $100 million contract. I mean, I felt like that was a family member doing that. I was so proud of him. But then he fumbled the bag. And we're talking about a football player, so no pun intended when we're talking about fumble. But he fumbled the bag. Come on. Come on. He taught us how not to fumble the bag, how not to do it. You had $100 million contract lined up, and he fumbled. Fumble! He fumbled. It's sad. It's sad. But the question we have to talk about is, how did we get here? To our uncle, to Uncle Shay, to Shannon Sharpe fumbling the bag. Because I said we can learn from this. We can learn from people's mistakes and say, you know what, I don't want to do that. Growing up in my house, I was raised by a single mother, but I had uncles, a lot of uncles. I had aunties. My mother grew up in a family of 9 siblings. So that's a lot of uncles and aunties. That's a lot of grandchildren. I mean, for my grandmother, that's a lot of cousins for me. I had a big family. And I had a lot of older, cousins. I had, my uncles and aunties as well. But they made their mistakes, right? I had uncles I looked up to as fathers. I had aunties I looked up to as mothers. They were older than me, so I saw their life as they grew up and as they were adults. And I saw choices that they made. And I learned from their mistakes. I learned from them. And this is something that we also can learn from. And the question is, how did we get here when it comes to Shannon Sharpe? And I believe we got to this point because Shannon Sharpe worried too much about what other people say about him. And that's something you have to learn. No matter how good you do in life, there are people who are not going to like you. No matter how many accolades you have, no matter how many awards you get, there are people who are going to criticize. There are people who are going to still not like you or have something negative to say about you. You have to not worry about what people say, because a lot of times we're so worried and we spend so much energy and we spend so much strength and so much power trying to get men approval, when the only approval at the end of the day we need is God's. Shannon Sharpe was caught up in that. He wanted everybody's approval. He was worried about what everybody was saying about him. But you know who you are. You should know who you are. So what they're saying, if it's not true, why worry about it? Because you know where that is coming from. I mean, Shannon Sharpe is a successful Black man. Successful. I just laid it out, from the beginning to now, how successful he's been. So come on, your resume speaks for itself. You know what you've accomplished. So why are you still so worried about what people are saying about you when you know where a lot of that is coming from? It's coming from jealousy. It's crabology. Crabs in the bucket. Crabs don't want the other crabs to get out of the bucket. How dare you rise out and get to the top and out of here? So they try to pull you back down. We call it crabology. Crabs in the bucket. We know where a lot of that was coming from. Well, it was hating. It was jealousy. So why are you spending so much strength on that when you know better? When you know better, if it's true, you made the choice. You made the choice. Don't pretend to be something that you're not if it's true. But when you make a choice, stand on it. When you make a lifestyle choice, stand on it. But you're so busy trying to pretend, you're so busy trying to show, you're so busy putting so much strength because you want men's approval. And I said at the end of the day, the approval we need is God's. Because Shannon Sharpe blew up. Shannon Sharpe was successful. And then we get to Club Shay Shay, and what happens? He brings Cat Williams on his podcast, Club Shay Shay, and went through the roof. People who had never talked about Club Shay Shay were talking about Club Shay Shay. People who had never talked about Shannon Sharpe, even though Shannon Sharpe been around for a long time, were talking about Shannon Sharpe. So you know what's going to happen with that. I mean, you're not a baby. You're not an infant. You know how life is. When the light is on you, it comes the praise and it comes the attacks. When the light was on Jesus, the people came to see Jesus. Also, when the light was on Jesus, people gathered together and conspired to kill Jesus. When the light comes, it comes with praise and it also comes with attacks. That's what the light does. So you know that already. You have to be ready for that. He had Cat Williams on there and it blew up, and then all of a sudden, the haters are coming out. The vitriol is increasing. The vitriol is increasing. And Shannon Sharpe, in my opinion, couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it because he wanted men's approval. He wanted men's approval. First, it was the Instagram snafu, because there was this, rumor that came out. It had been circulating before, but now that the light has come, I keep using that the spotlight has come because of the viral, Cat Williams episode, and now his Club Shay Shay is catching eyes from different people, different audiences, because of what Cat Williams said on the show. Now that rumor is increasing, the rumor is increasing. They're feeding the flames of it that he was gay. There was this rumor that he was gay. And he said, I'm not gay. I've never been gay. I love women. So if you know you're not gay, why worry about that? Because you know where it's coming from. You know where it was coming from. It's coming from haters. It's coming from jealousy. But he couldn't just let it go. So it was the whole Instagram snafu where he allegedly accidentally went live when he was with a woman, accidentally. That was the first thing. And now it was this whole issue with this young, who could be his daughter, OnlyFans model that he got involved with. And Monique was trying to warn him. The fact that Monique told him to settle down and stop messing with those young women, that means it was known. Because he wanted it to be known, hey, I'm not gay. Those rumors, stop those rumors, I'm not gay. Look, I got this young thing with me, That means he was out there letting it be known with this young girl, maybe some other young women out there trying to satisfy and get the approval of other people. He tried too hard, because you know who you are, stand on who you are, love who you are. Stop trying to get the approval of other people. Monique was trying to warn him, but he was so caught up, and I got to show them that this is what it is. It burned him. They say when you play with fire, you get burned. So that's the thing. What can we learn from this whole situation with Shannon Sharpe? I'll say it again. When you play with fire, you get burned. This young lady that he was dealing with, and just to give you, a backdrop on the story with Shannon Sharpe, is, like I said, he settled. It was a sexual assault lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, and they wanted $50 million, but they settled for an undisclosed amount. Some say it was $20 million, but like I said, it hasn't been disclosed, so we don't know what it is. But he settled for an amount, I'm sure under the $50 million amount that they wanted, and then he was ultimately fired from ESPN. But the lady who was accusing him was an OnlyFans model. That says it right there. Because these women get on OnlyFans because they want to make money. Somebody driven by money. And this young lady saw Shannon Sharpe, a man who had money. She saw dollar signs. She saw her meal ticket. It wasn't the type of lady that Shannon Sharpe could have been dealing with. You, Shannon Sharpe, the accolades, the resume, you're an athletic man, you have the personality. You could have got any woman you want. But when you mess with fire, when you play with fire, you get burned. He kept playing with fire, and he got burned. Shannon Sharpe is 50-some years of age. He needs to sit his old behind down somewhere and settle down. The young brothers, we look up to a person like Shannon Sharpe as a role model. He needs to be a role model. And this is not being a role model. This wasn't it. Because what it taught us is how to fumble the bag. It's sad. He had a $100 million contract. And there are warning signs. Like I said, Monique was trying to tell him. Even Cat Williams said something in his interview, how these young women will bring you down. But sometimes you're so caught up in trying to please everybody and trying to get everybody's approval. You're so caught up, you're blinded by the fact, and you're not listening when people are giving you advice. That's telling you there's always signs. There's always signs. God will send people in your life to speak to you. A lot of times, that's how God speaks to us. He sends people and they speak the mind of God and the heart of God to us. But a lot of times we're so caught up in what we're doing. We're so blinded by things. We're not paying attention. Because there were signs for Shannon Sharpe. And one thing the enemy will do, the enemy will wait till you build what your enterprise. The enemy will wait. He won't come in the beginning. He won't come. He sees you building. He'll let you build. Because if you fall right there, you can pick yourself up. If your elevation is low and you fall, you can dust yourself off and pick yourself up. But the enemy, the devil, what he'll do, he'll wait till you build. You'll build and build that enterprise high. And then he'll knock the chair from under you, and that enterprise, what you built for years, will come tumbling down. And when that fall like that is hard, and it's hard to recover from that. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful. Stop worrying about what other people say about us. Love yourself. Stand on who you are. And the only approval that you need is the approval of God at the end of the day. Because no matter how much things you do, no matter how much things you achieve, there's always going to be critics. There's always going to be people who hate. There's always going to be people who are envious and jealous. There are people who are going to applaud you, but there's always going to be people who criticize you. That's just life. So why are you worried about that? Just keep your eyes on the prize and do your thing. But I feel like Shannon Sharpe lost his focus and started looking at the people. He started looking at the people and what they were saying. He got so caught up in that, he fumbled. He fumbled. He was running for the touchdown, and he got distracted by the crowd out there. And a defense came and knocked the ball out of his hand. That's what happened. I'm looking at Shannon Sharpe, and I'm saying, come on. There's a story in the Bible about the prodigal son and how the prodigal son, he left the father and he took what was his and he wasted it with prodigal living. He squandered it. He wasted it. Some of us can look at Shannon Sharpe and the opportunity to get to that point where this black man, has $100 million contract and look at him and say, man, look what you did. You wasted it with prodigal living. You wasted it by trying to appease someone else, trying to get someone's approval. You wasted it. You messed up. But the prodigal son realized how he had fallen and came back. I'm saying all that to say because we can look at Shannon Sharpe as a prodigal son. Because Shannon Sharpe, someone, like I said, I follow his career. He has a Christian background from what I have known him to talk about. But he's that prodigal where he got the accolades and I feel like he lost his way. But the prodigal son teaches us, because the Bible said he went off and left the father and went to a far country, but he eventually came back. That means you're never too far gone. You're never too far gone. So I feel like Shannon Sharpe at this moment, yes, you dropped it. You fumbled, but you can always pick that baby back up. And can you come back now to your focus? Can you come back now to the goal? Can you come back now to the mission, to the assignment, to the purpose, and be the Shannon Sharpe who God has called you to be? Stop trying to appease people and live for God. Sometimes it's a blessing that you fall, because now hopefully that fall woke you up. Hopefully that fall shook something in you to say, man, look where I'm at now. Look what I could have been. Look where I'm at now. Let me get up and let me reestablish myself and let me do me, be a man that God has called me to be. That's what I hope from Shannon Sharpe. That's what I hope. That's what I hope, because I believe, in my opinion, that he will rebound from this because he's so talented. Like I said, I believe he made Undisputed. Club Shay Shay is what it is because of him, because of his personality. He has a great personality. He's someone you can listen, talk, and talk, who listen to talk and be around and just sit under. And while he, gives facts about the NFL, while he gives facts of life, he has that kind of personality. So I believe that he will land somewhere. But when he lands somewhere, when he picks up the pieces, when he picks up the ball, now do it right. Just run, baby. Just run. Just run that destination. Run that race that God has set before you. Stop trying to worry about the people. Stop trying to appease the people, and just do the will of God. Don't try to satisfy your flesh. And remember, you're a role model. That means young men like myself are looking up to you. We're looking up to you. We want to be like Shannon Sharpe. A lot of people want to be like Shannon Sharpe. They're looking up to it. They're seeing your walk. So what is your walk going to show them? Is it going to show you someone who's so caught up in an image? Is it going to show someone who's so caught up in appeasing other people? Is it showing someone who I failed, but I got back up. I dusted myself off, and I knew that I can't run this race without Jesus. And I said, I'm going to take my steps with Christ leading me, and I'm going to be the Shannon Sharpe, the person that God called me to be. Because that role model, that person will touch lives. That's all I have today on this subject. Shannon Sharpe, the prodigal son. Like I said, he fumbled. But when you fumble, you can always pick it back up. And you can keep on running. You can always pick it back up when you fumble and keep possession of it. When you get knocked down, you can always get back up and keep going. But the question is, when you got knocked down and you get back up, what have you learned? What have you learned? That's all I have for you today. I would love to hear your opinion on this topic. Talk to me in the comments. Before I get out of here, I want to give a shout out to the Dream Team. Blessed Dreams Production, my boy Alfred, Eyes Have Not Seen, my sister Marilyn. And to the next time, another episode here at Open Doors drops. Be blessed. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Don't ever take nothing for granted, man. Hey, you gotta wake up and realize that